and welcome to another session of Let's Be Connected. I'm Shaima from Near East University, and I'll be your host for today's show. So, what is Let's Be Connected? Let's Be Connected is an innovative program hosted by the International Office at Near East University, which aims to bring together different members of the tertiary education, such as officers, students, as well as lecturers, in order to, as the name suggests, to keep connected. So without any further ado, I'm going to invite today's guest, Honorable Professor Dr. Hüseyin Özdeşer, who is the chair of the Department of Economics at Near East University. Dear Professor, welcome.
Yes, thank you very much.
First of all, thank you for having accepted our invitation for our show today. And
it's my pleasure.
Indeed, the pleasure is shared. How have you been, dear Professor?
Yes, I'm fine nowadays, but as you know, because of coronavirus, as everyone, we are suffering some issues in our life, such as we are not available to see our colleagues and our students as much as we used to before. We just only available to meet and to our meetings and etc. With online system. That's the one of the things that really is playing a very important role in our life today, and it's still, I think, for a while we'll continue to work on online for some of our tasks.
Definitely, this has been a very tough time for all of us, and everybody is adapting at their own pace. So it's a time where we all need to show patience. To be honest, patience is a very big virtue when it comes to this situation.
But I want to say something that economics is saying that all crisis is teaching us something. Like this crisis period taught us technology, and maybe a lot of things that we were not available to do before the coronavirus, now we are available. And in economics also, when we come to the economics as well, maybe it taught us to be an individual having better saving activities in the economy, as governments maybe, as other institutions, also individually, because you never know what happens anytime in the economy. So it's better to be in a case of always keep something saved as government, as individual, as organization. So this can help us to overcome some of the economical problems that unexpectedly happens, much more easier to be recovered, I think.
Definitely. As our viewers can see, we are already jumping into right the core of the subject, which is
Exactly.
the economic perspective. So it promises to be a very nice session today. But before I jump into any other question, dear Professor, can I ask you to start by just simply giving us a brief introduction about yourself and your journey till Near East University and the position that you occupy today?
Okay. In 1989 or 90, I graduated from my bachelor degree. Then in 1993, I graduated from my master level. And then in Marmara University, I graduated from political economics department. But my journey to Near East is 1993. So I've been there for approximately 27 years, and I hope I can do it more. So Near East is something, somewhere for me, not a working place, but as a place that, like my house, and my colleagues there is not my colleagues, I call them. They're like someone from my family, because when you work with someone for a long time, after a while you start to accept them as someone from your family members, not your colleagues, because you share many things, the happiness, the sadness, the new things. Because when I came to Near East University 70 years ago, when you make a compare with the position today, with the past, I cannot say the changes with the words. You have to live it and see the differences. So I'm proud of these changes. So I'm proud of myself that I've been working in here for so many years. And I really would like to thank the founders of this university that they gave us this chance to be a lecturer in this such a nice organization. And also, it's a big chance not only for us, but for the country, for the economy of the country, because it's giving a lot of opportunities for the people to find a working place, to find a place to have a very good education, and to find a place where we have very high level of standard of education. And also, when I finished my PhD in 2001, I have been appointed as chairman of economics department. Since then, approximately 19 years, I have been chairman of economics. And in my department as well, a lot of things changed, because when I came, I had only a few students. We didn't have master program, we didn't have PhD program. Now we have all those programs for our students, for the foreigners, and especially for the most of the students coming from African countries. So, as I said, since 1993, I have been a working person, a lecturer in this university. And since 2001, I have been chairman of economics department. But by the way, I also established the Department of European Relations. And until 2015, I have been chairman of this department as well. So I also opened a master program there, because I would like to say in here that I did my PhD thesis on European monetary integration. So some of the courses that I established, I will tell later on, that is related with the European economic courses as well. Okay, that's what I can say about myself.
Thank you, dear Professor. Indeed, we see that it's a very amazing parkour that you have had, and you have, in every detail that you are giving, we see that you are indeed very passionate about economics. So you did mention something that I would like to emphasize on, which is the economic perspective of about Near East University. So indeed, you have told us how Near East University in its entire sum has contributed to the economy of Northern Cyprus, and indeed it is something that is that has to be noted by our viewers, given the grandeur of the university. And of course, as you mentioned, our thanks definitely go to the founders of this university for all the opportunities that they have given us so far. Let's jump into the Department of Economics now. Can you start by giving us an overview of what the program covers?
Okay, in economics, let's start by the master program, if you want. In bachelor program, it's for 4 years, as you know, and 1 year prep school if you have any problem in English for improvements. And then we have master and PhD programs. Of course, as I said, for me, when I designed the program in economics, it was very important for me for the students to learn the European economy as well. If you ask me why, because European Union as a union is producing approximately 30% more than that, maybe the world production, and also 30% of the international trade is being carried out by the European Union. So an economist or any student studying in economics, I think, should know what the European is, what the EU is trying to do, why it was established, how its economy is ruling the world, what is its place in the world economy. Especially, I did my PhD on European monetary integration, and when I did that, or when I started doing my thesis, I remember in 1996, 97, in my university, in Marmara University, not any professor accepted my thesis that I taught in the future Euro will be successful, and in the world economy there will be only 3 money anchors: Euro, dollar, and yen. And they told me this is only something that speculatives are playing with the world economy, so it's going to never be real. And believe me, it was very difficult for me to find any thesis advisor during that time. But I was lucky that I found someone studied on that, and I'm studying on it. And that's why I really want my students as well to learn the European economy, the euro, why the monetary integration is there as well. Because now there are 19 members using the euro as a national currency out of 27 countries in the EU. That means it's a dynamic process, it's a continuing process. The other thing that I would like to say is that the EU doesn't have its borders, and nobody knows where the borders of the EU really stop. So that's why I want my students to learn this big economy, because the EU is also an example economically to teach the world how the economic integrations can be achieved. Today also, ECOWAS, one of the economic integration process in the Africa region. Now, from Nigeria, I'm studying with some of my students about how the ECOWAS can achieve its functions better as a union, as an economic union, and everything that what we're studying is how to make it better, just taking lessons from the EU, the process, the historical evaluation of the EU. So EU is not only an organization that is there to be learned, but also is there to teach us how the integration process can go through, because they are only the single economic and political integration that is quite very, very successful. And there are a lot of things that we have to learn from there. So based on this reality, when I design my courses, I always put some courses as must course in my program for the students, such as European economy, such as European single market. And also at the same time, what I did is I'm opening some of the elective courses together with the European Union relations, such as European labor market, or EU organizations, or EU institutions, or decision making in the EU, or European monetary integrations. And I'm very lucky that I'm not teaching my students only what all the other universities do, just classical economics. Yes, we teach them like microeconomics, macroeconomics, econometrics, but we also teach them the European Union. We want them to be graduated in a way that to be able to understand the global economics, the global world, not only economically, but also politically, because I know that if you know the global economics well, then you can know how the international relations is being ruled in the world, because all the international relations in the world is based on the rules of the economic games. So who rules the world for the time being? For example, America. Why? Because America has the power. Whether it's right or not, America is always a listened country and always is having impacts in all the areas such as Africa, Middle East, and Europe as well. And also, I would like to say one more thing about my program. So in the thesis, there is a chance for in the master program, there is a chance for the students that they can do their master level with thesis or without thesis. If you want to do with a thesis, then you have to take 7 courses plus seminar and thesis. But if you want to do without thesis, you also have this option. Then you have to take 10 courses and 1 project course. And in 2 programs, with thesis and without thesis, there are 4 must courses that you have to take. If it's with the thesis, then you have to take 4 must courses and 6 elective courses. If you're doing with thesis, then you have to take 4 courses and 3 elective courses. It depends on your choice, but it's I like that most of the students who study in our program, they mostly prefer to do with their thesis, because also in our PhD program, if you graduate from any master program without a thesis, then you cannot enter our PhD program. So I always advise them to do a master program with a thesis, because it will also going to give them a chance to do their PhD in the future. But if they only do it for their job level, for their jobs and etc., so they also have the right to do it without the thesis program. It only depends on their choice. But as a chair and a supervisor for them, I always connect them, I always encourage them to do it with their thesis.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Professor. It's very nice of you to have brushed onto all the options that the students have, whether it's in their bachelor's program or master's program or even after. I think they now have the choice to choose whichever different path that they want, and you have given them all the options, like I mentioned. And it's also nice for our viewers to hear that someone of your standards and your status at nearest university, you have at the very basis of your principles the aspect of teaching and adapting to, for example, different regions. You talked about ECOWAS for those African students who are going to maybe go back home once they leave our university. So they can always put into practice what they are learning here. So this is always a nice aspect for them to take note of. Um, so I'm just going to jump into the next question, which is more specific now to the classroom. Whether it's undergraduate programs or master's programs, or even if they differ in between, how can you tell us, what can you tell us about the assessment methods that you apply for your students?
Well, in general, teaching is not an easy target. I mean, because you're teaching someone that doesn't know something. But in teaching, for example, I believe that what is important is you have to put yourself into the position of the students. If you're a student, how would you like the teacher to be? The first thing I would like in my department to have is democracy. Democracy in speaking, democracy in thinking. So as long as we can create a democratic environment, education system in our department, that's what I believe, then I'm sure that we will not only create a condition that the students are benefiting from us at the maximum level, but also as lecturers, we will benefit from the students as well. I can tell openly and surely that I have learned many, many things that I could never be able to learn by studying from my students. They gave me different ideas. For example, while I was discussing in class one day, I remember, they asked me one question, Professor, which comes first? Economic stability or political stability? I mean, which one creates the other? And I couldn't know the right answer, believe me. So I started to think on that, which creates which. Then I sit on and decided myself that I have to write an article on this, just to learn which affects which. So when the students ask me this question again, so I will be able to answer. Then I found that political stability creates the economic stability. This is something that my students encourage me to learn. So I can learn from them how the political economic situations are going quite well in Turkey, in Africa, in Middle East, and all around the world. So that's what I'm saying. If you be democratic, if you can create a democratic situation, organization in your department, and you have a chance to have your lessons based on discussions in the class. You ask them discussion questions in written way, in oral way, and you get a back word from them, and you can see that it's like a big ocean about the knowledge, just not only goes from you, but also comes from my students. That's what I learned in 27 years. You must not see your students as students. You have to see them like your friends, and you're discussing something with your friends in the class. And I learned that if you respect them, they will respect you more than you desire, more than you want, because they know whom to respect and whom not to respect. The students never lie to us. The students always show us our mistakes, our missings, and our mistakes. That's very important. The students are like our guides. They show us how to be better. So how we can learn all this from my students, that what we have to do to be better than democracy. So if there is democracy in our teaching, if there's democracy in our classes, then believe me that they will make us better than we can expect. So I always try to be like a father, like a brother, like a sister to my students. Because imagine that when you go into class, in the morning, say, for example, at 9, or when you do your classes online now at 9, okay? You are there, but somebody has woken up for you just to listen up your courses. I see them as my guests. So they came to my class, online or in face-to-face, just to learn something from me. So because of this, their attempts, I respect them all. So I don't want to see myself in a classical position, teacher and students. No, teachers and their friends. And I encourage one of my students, one of my PhD students from Nigeria, to write an article, to write a thesis about ECOWAS. Because now ECOWAS is trying to adjust monetary integration, just like the European Union. But we found that it's not possible. But we found why it's not possible. And we found what has to be done to make it possible. And we have made Web of Science publications as well, and we're still going on and working on it. So I'm very happy that I encourage my students to study something that this studying process for the student will never stop, because this dynamic process will never end. ECOWAS one day will be available to use, I'm sure, its monetary integration, just like European Union. But this will take time. But my student will know when and how this will be possible. And our article now on the internet is being read by many students from Africa. I'm very, very happy that our articles about this is a kind of teaching activity for them. They can learn now better why in Africa, the members of ECOWAS, the students from those universities, those countries' universities, can now understand better why it's not possible and what has to be done to make it possible. Because on the ResearchGate, I see that the followers, the readers, are mostly from African regions, from those countries who are a member of the ECOWAS. So this is something that I like, and I enjoy being a lecturer, because I don't like to be classical, just go into the class or come in front of the screen and explain them something classical economics and leave. That's not the teaching. It can be done everybody. So you have to create a difference. You have to take their ideas. I mean, you have to create that conditions that they will have the right to speak. They will have the right to make discussions with you, to tell you why and how in their region people can be achieving to have a better life. I cannot know that. I cannot know Turkey as much as they do. I cannot know Africa as much as they do. I cannot know Middle East as much as they do. Because what we see from outside is totally different when you are in. It's like Cyprus issue. I know that. When I talk with the people outside, what they tell about the Cyprus is definitely different than what we know. Because we are living here, we know everything better. But as long as this chance is given to my students, we are lucky that we have so many students from different regions of the world. So we will also have this chance that to learn the world economics, the world politics much better. And if we can be better, then we can be better instructors for our students. That's my methodology. That's my ideology in teaching. Learning with the students, being better with the students, and see your students as your colleagues, that you are learning something together. I'm a professor. Does that mean that I learned everything? If you say that you learned everything, that's the point that you are zero. No, learning never ends until you die. So if you keep on, I always, they ask me, what is your job? I tell them I'm a student. They say, how you are a professor? No, being professor is something else, but my main job is I'm a student. I'm learning because learning makes me better, because I believe that, for example, I can tell you very simple something. Since 1996, I have been studying on European monetary integration. But I can tell you that I'm still nothing on that. I have to work more, I have to produce more, and learn many more things to be better instructor, to teach my students better things. Because I see that mistake in the society. Who are you? I mean, somebody introduce themselves. They say, I'm EU specialist. How you can be EU specialist? Political specialist, defense specialist, security specialist, international relations specialist, economics specialist. Which economics? Taxes, monetary integration, public expenditures, agriculture. So you cannot be specialist. You can only know one thing, and not you can know. You can know something and keep on learning still until you die. That's what the mentality that I have as an instructor, and that's the mentality that I have how to be a lecturer. And I try as much as possible I can. I can't say I did 100%, but I'm trying as a chairman to encourage my colleagues as well in my department to teach in the same way, to be democratic as much as possible, to help our students as a father, as a mother, as a sister, as a family member, whatever. So in this way, I'm very happy that most of my students, when they graduate, they still connect with us and they still continue to show us respect as we are still their teachers. That's very important for me. If they do that, that means we are doing our job good. But I'm not saying we are doing our job best, because best can never be achieved. We are trying to be best, or let's say we are trying to be better. And as I said, we are learning all our mistakes from our students.
Definitely. Thank you, dear Professor, for this very detailed explanation of your methodology. Indeed, it is a very refreshing standpoint that you gave us. And I believe many of our viewers, whether they are prospective students or current students, they will be very happy to see that they can look forward to such a relationship, a refreshing relationship between lecturer, professor, and student. It's always refreshing to have such a platform to look forward to learn and to teach. In such cases, in your case particularly, whereby a professor and the chair of the Department of Economics is actually learning, willing to learn from students. So that's a very amazing thing that you told us today. So thank you once more. I believe the next question can be related to most of what you just told us. The question being, what advice can you give students, your students, particularly for this department? What advice can you give them when it comes to the ability of better understanding what is being taught? How can they better understand or broaden their understanding of the programs or the courses under the Department of Economics?
Well, I believe that is in the hands of our department. I mean, our lecturers in the department as well. As long as we keep ourselves away from the educational systems based on just memorizing, then I think we can help our students to be better about learning. I mean, for example, instead of, I'm just giving an example that to make myself understood better. Instead of asking them, what is central bank, for example, it's better to tell them, if central bank applies this policy, then how do you think this will affect the interest rates in the economy? So if we can go through this way in economics studying, then students will understand how the policies applied in the economy can affect the output, can affect the outcome. So definitions in economics department, I totally disagree. There must not be any definition in economics courses, just application. If this happens, then what happens? So if we can go through this way in education, then we will see the results that there will be a feedback from the students that we will learn a lot of things from them. Because when they will search, they will learn, and what they will learn, they will also come and explain us. So that's what I'm saying. Teachers and students are learning together, because we don't have time to search everything all the time, but we can do that with our students. But we have to keep them, search, learn it, and come and let's discuss. So if you let these students just go study and come, then they don't know what to study. They will just read something, memorize something, and that's all. That's not teaching. That's not learning, because when you memorize something, you forget it when you go out of the gates of the university. So teaching must stay with you until you die. That's the teaching. I mean, if you teach temporarily, then the students will forget everything after a while. Then the point is permanent education. How we can do the permanent education? That's very important. I mean, when you teach something to the students in the first class, then they will keep on that until they graduate from the PhD. Because believe me, in university, whatever you learn, you're learning within 4 years. In master, in PhD, you don't learn many things. You just learn how to make applications, such as writing thesis and research. But this 4 years is very important. So if we can encourage our students to be able, in a system of discussing, searching, learning, and then come and discuss individually as to friends. So what I advise my students is to encourage their teachers, their lecturers, not to ask them memorizing questions. I advise them, and I'm saying them from here, please encourage all your instructors in economics department to ask you not any memorizing questions, but discussing questions. At the end of the question, there must be a discuss. If they demand this, then they can change their lecturers, because the lecturers have to organize themselves according to the demands and requirements of the class. So if what the students want, that will be the teacher. So I advise them always to talk with their lecturers to help them how they can learn by doing research. Education must be research oriented. As long as this can be created not by the lecturers, but in this case by the demands of the students, they will see that they will be enjoying of being a student. They will enjoy of being to learn something that they don't know. Because this is the most exciting thing in the world, that you learn something that you don't know. If you learn something, why the people are searching the space? What for? To learn something that they don't know, because they make themselves happier and they feel themselves stronger in every way. So that's what I want from my students. That's what I advise them. Always search, learn. The person who knows better than the other will definitely have the advantages of this in the future, because learning is not for nothing. Learning always makes you much better than the others. So please, I'm saying to my students from here, encourage your teachers to make you researcher, to ask you questions with discuss, not memorizing questions. They will see that their teachers will be better, they will be better, the education will be better. They will see that. And I advise my colleagues as well. They will see that teaching is much more enjoyable now. They will see that to teach students something, that they will be available also to learn something from their students.
Thank you
This is
so
my
much.
advice for them. Yes.
Thank you so much, dear Professor, for very fruitful pieces of advice. I believe that all of our viewers right now are taking notes. Even those who will watch us later are taking notes of this. So basically, your advice when it comes to the ability of broadening their understanding of what is being taught is relies actually on the bilateral relationship between the professor, the lecturer, and the student. So yes,
Especially
students, take notes.
especially here, what I'm trying to say is, especially the PhD and master students, when they come to you, you must always know as a lecturer that they are the candidate of being a scientist. Maybe one day they will be a much better scientist than you are. Then if you want to be proud of this, then you have to help them. I mean, some of the instructors, I'm not saying from my university, but from other universities, especially in some of the universities in Turkey, what I see that because of the way they act to the students, as someone who knows nothing, as someone just came to learn something but has not any value in the meanwhile of being a person, whatever. Then they block them, not they encourage, but they disencourage them to study. And many, unfortunately, bright people, clever people, and they cannot go further in education. So that's something for me is wasting of human resources. Wasting of human resources mean wasting the future of your country. So that's what I'm saying. You must see your master students, especially your master students and PhD students, as a candidate of a scientist. And in this way, share with them the knowledge, share with them what they know, and try to learn the things from their country. So you can make a comparison between your country and their country. And you can understand what is missing in your country and what is not missing in your country. What is your shortage? What is your surplus in your country? So you can make a comparison as well between your life and their life. And from their life, you learn something, then you can also teach your children. You can tell them, look, with only 10% of the money that you spend, there are many students that they are studying here. So this is good, something that we can learn how the others also live in the world, to teach ourselves and to teach our people as well. So it's good sharing. I always say that when you have sadness, you share it and it gets less. When you are happy and you share this happiness, it gets bigger. That's what I'm saying. If you share knowledge, knowledge will get better, because you learn something with students, you teach the students something, and the knowledge gets better. Now, my student is better, I am better. Now my student is a better student, now I am a better lecturer. Now I am more informative for next coming students. If I become more informative from the next coming students, then I will be much more informative for the next coming students. So this is how we can improve ourselves, because our material is human. Our material is not wood, is not car, is not steel, is not coal, is human. And humans, when they come in front of you, you must see them someone from yourself. I mean, someone as who really wants to learn something, and even who knows something that you don't know, and requesting information from you. So you have to give that in a sharing style. That's, I believe, is the best way to make the education better. Because if you cannot escape from the classical teaching methods, just you go into the class, you teach for 40 years, the same things, you go and finish. No, that's not the education. That's not renewing yourself. That's not getting better. That's not being the best in any area. Because I can tell you that, okay, as I told you now, you become professor, but in learning, you are still a child. Because you have to learn many more things. Because when you have PhD, you understand that you know nothing. When you come associated Prof, you understand that you know nothing. When you become professor, you still see that you know nothing. So that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm always saying my students as well as an advising. Always study. Read, because there is no any limit in learning. Even 24 hours a day you study, you read, when you die 80, 70, 80, 90 years, whatever, you will see that still you have many things that you have to learn. That's what I have learned. That's what I practiced until this level.
Thank you so much, dear Professor, again for your wonderful addition. And I believe that most of our viewers right now, and also those who will be watching us later, they will be sitting with a notepad to take such wonderful advice from you. So
I hope that.
Definitely. So I'm going to just jump to the other question now, which is regarding the summer training programs. At Near East University, various departments they prescribe a compulsory summer training program when it comes to the curriculum of the program. So what about the Department of Economics? Do you have any such program?
Yes, in our economics department, we take into consideration the demands coming from the students. Because I have to tell something here, that there are some courses that they're open, for example, in fall semester, and they're not open in spring. Or if it's open in spring, it's not open in the fall semester. So what we mostly try to do is that we try to help to the students not to lose time about graduating, because we don't want to make them wait for one semester, only one or two courses. We try to open that in the summer courses. And especially we ask the students which courses are demanded, or who are the students that will be graduated for next term. We see that there are some courses that they have to take it in the spring. So that means they have to wait all 4 semesters. So what we do is that we try to open them courses in the summer, so because of that they don't lose any time. I mean, in this case we are so successful, we are helping to students. But say that if there is one student that has to take course but unfortunately is not open, and by the time being has taken the summer course and failed, we also give them a chance to take the course as a project course. So we try to help them in all the way to make them to be graduated in the right time and as soon as possible, because most of them, they want to start a work, they want to go through the higher education and etc.
Okay, thank you so much. So we see here that when you are referring to summer training program, it's mostly the courses that they can do in the summertime. It's different from an internship, correct?
Internship is not compulsory in our department, but if the students want, I can be helpful for them. At least why? Because this will give them a chance. Sorry for microphone.
It's okay.
This will give them a chance to learn the economy in practical ways as well. For example, if they want to work in a bank, if they want to work in any company, if they want to work in the companies which are working with the exchange rates, I especially advise that, or in the exchange market in Istanbul, I always advise them to do this type of internship, even though it's not compulsory. So this way will be helpful for them to be, I mean, more understanding how to connect the theory and practice at the same time. Because when I remember when I was in the bachelor study, it was very strange that I was studying how the foreign exchange markets work, or how the free market works, what the free market is. I was studying them, but I was not able to understand most of the time. But when I was reading the newspapers, the economics pages, when I was seeing what's happening there, how the decisions are taken there, how the taken decisions affecting the other things, so I could be able to understand much better what, in real terms, economy is causing for the changes. And it's still now, I'm reading the economics pages of many newspapers, the domestic ones or the foreign ones, because it's helping us a lot. That's the same thing if you do internship. It's going to teach you a lot of things in practical ways as well. So it's not compulsory in my department, but I always advise them to do if they can, if they have the chance.
Thank you so much, dear Professor. So to sum up, the summer training program is not compulsory for the Department of Economics, but our dear Professor has given our viewers, especially the perspective as well as current students, a lot of advice when it comes to the importance of it, even if it's not compulsory. So now moving on to the next question, you did mention a lot of important points when it comes to the classroom, the interaction between lecturers and students as well. But what about the student as an individual? In your opinion, what can you tell us about your opinion and your version of a successful student? What are the qualities of such a student?
Well, we cannot measure success as a centigrade. We cannot measure this success as a centimeter. What I believe what success is, if a student wants to say that is successful or not, and I want always to say, I always say that the grades does not say the real success of the students. It only shows the nominal success. If you ask me what is a success is, it depends on how happy you feel yourself as a student. If as a student you can say that I'm an economist after you graduate, that means you are successful. If after you graduate you can understand what causes the exchange rate to rise, what causes the economy to collapse, what causes the economy to make people happier and wealthier, that's the time you can say you are successful. Because in the books, yes, they teach you a lot of things theoretically, but when it comes to the real world, so when something happens, for example, when America is bombing Iraq, can you tell me what will happen to petrol prices? Can you tell me what will happen to exchange rates? Can you tell me what will happen to the budget balance of payments in Turkey? If you can, then you are successful. So that's what I'm saying. Success of the students is not available to be measured with any measurement, with any value, but it depends on the students. When they ask themselves the questions they ask now, and they can answer these, then they can pronounce themselves, they can announce themselves as successful. That's my measurement for success.
Thank you so much.
That's why I'm saying that they have to read a lot in the newspapers, the books, so they can learn. They can learn what happened in, for example, 90 Iraq war, so they can now learn what will happen if there is another war in Syria. They can know what will happen if there is a political crisis based on petrol, if they study what happened in 1970s between Arab and Israel war. So that's what I'm saying. They have to learn by reading and searching. That's why it's very important, because the books do not tell us many things. I can tell you some examples. For example, in now is coronavirus time, and we have to do our education as online. Okay, and the questions I ask my students is take-home exam style. Why I'm doing this? Because the answers of the questions are not in the books. The answers of the questions is not anywhere. What they have to do is they have to study, learn, understand, and then do it. So the chance of them to make copy is very close to zero, because they don't have the answer there. That's only application. For example, if central bank applies this policy, then what will happen to the interest rates according to Keynesian? No answer in the book, no answer anywhere. So they have to understand the mentality, the theory quite well, then so they can answer. Why I'm doing this? I can ask them very simple definition questions. So this will encourage them to cheating. I don't want them to cheat. I want them to learn. So to minimize the chance of cheating in the online system as well, in the class as well, I believe that it's very important to ask the students the discussion questions. That's what I'm asking. This is another point of the discussion questions. It makes the students better. It makes them better learner. It makes them to be more successful in the future. And it also minimizes the chance of any factor to be created, encouraging them to be cheating student. Because if they start cheating, you can't stop them. This cheating will continue until after they graduate as well. Because cheating will give them a nominal success, a fake success, and they will be happy for a while, but afterwards they will learn that what they have done is very, very wrong. But as they don't have a life experience, that as guiders, as lecturers, as instructors, we have to always encourage our students to be learning in a discussion way, not memorizing and based on definition style education. That's why I'm very against it. If you want to shape their future, if you want to shape their future success as well, if you want to make them successful after they graduate as well, This is what we have to do.
Thank you once more, dear Professor, for your very appreciative, critical analysis of success when it comes to students. Since you mentioned about the online classes and the online measures to be taken for assessment of students when it comes to the whole online world and the online methods that we have all been pushed to, I'm just going to bring a question right here when it comes to the transition from the normative system to the online system. How did it happen for your department and for you personally? How did you go through this whole procedure, and what has the department done when it comes to online classes as well as online examinations when it comes to this new pandemic and the online world?
Okay, I can say one thing for sure, that teaching online is much more technological. You use the technology better, and you can create the education system in a better way. But we must not forget one thing: we are humans, we are not machines. So I can for sure say that face-to-face is a way of teaching that when you are in the class, the sharing between you and the students is much higher. You see their mimics. When you ask something, you see their face reactions. When you explain something in the class, you see how their faces are changing. And by looking at the faces of my students, I can understand whether they're enjoying the way I'm explaining them, or are they enjoying the topics I'm explaining them, or are they understanding what I'm saying? So do I have to change my examples, and etc. So when it comes to face-to-face education in these matters, I think face-to-face is much better than online education. But can we say online education has no advantage? Yes, it does. You can use technology much better. For example, say that you are explaining something about the exchange market. All of a sudden, you can go to London exchange market. You can go to Istanbul exchange market. You may go to New York exchange market. And from there, by live, you can show your students what's going on, how the things are changing. So in some perspectives, yes, the technology is helping us to make our education in a more dynamic, in a more effective way. That's true. But as I said, we are humans. We need to see each other. We need to feel each other. When a student comes to you, he has to feel your warmness. He has to feel that he is going to a friend of his. He's going to a father of his. I don't know. To feel that he's going someone that he is very close to him. He is ready to help him. But in online education, you cannot do that because you don't see each other. We just see someone on the TV screen, or laptop screen, or PC screen, but that's all. We cannot feel each other. We cannot understand each other. I mean, as a human, we need to see each other, to understand each other, and to make face-to-face speaking. Like, of course, we can discuss many things by mobile as well, by talking on the mobile. But is it the same thing that we can do it face-to-face? It's not. We always say that face-to-face communication is much more influential in the way of affecting the people in front of you. For example, if you want to express yourself that what you did is not wrong, you need face-to-face communication. It's going to be more helpful for you. And you know, sometimes in online education, I don't want to say that all students do that, but sometimes some students can use this for some reasons, like they didn't study well, they are not quite study, and they may tell you, my internet is not working, my laptop is not working. What you can do, you have to believe. But in the class, you don't have these type of problems, I believe. But as I said, instead of stopping the education, online education is a very good alternative. And not only us, all the world used this. Somebody got happy, somebody didn't get happy. Sometimes I ask all my students, I ask them, how do you find education online? They say, no way, face-to-face is the best. Someone says same, someone says better. So I think it depends on what the people expect from the education. That's what I see. But as also I underlined, online education in the way of making us available to use technological tools in education is much more effective compared to face-to-face education, because where you're in the class, you only have marker and whiteboard, and you write and you try to make them understand. But now what you can do, you can give them many examples. You can take them to, as I said, to the exchange markets. You can take them to different parts of the world all of a sudden, and you can make the education more applicable in some cases. The only missing thing is just the feelings that people can have when they're face to face.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Indeed, the human touch is something that we have all been used to, because we go to the office, we go to the classroom, we go everywhere where we go, we need to have the human touch. But this pandemic,
because until this level, I told you that for 27 years I've been teaching, and for 70 years, that was the education system I used. And all of a sudden they taught me, or the system and the conditions told us that you have to go to this system. So it's not something easy to be adapted after 27, not only for me, for many people. Maybe there are some people teaching for 40 years, and all of a sudden you pass yourself to another education system that you have no idea. So it was always very hard position for us, not only for me, for my colleagues. And by phoning us always, by mailing us always, we tried to correct each other, and we tried to give advices to each other. We made meetings, faculty meetings every week to make to understand what is our missings, what are our mistakes, what are our shortage, what are our surpluses and everything. So it was very hard process for us, but at last we succeeded. I believe we did something the best that we can do in this process. But now, if you ask me now, everybody in my department, for example, is much better, much trusting themselves that they can do this better than previous semester. That's for sure. I can understand it for myself, because imagine that for the first thing I was asking, what is the online course? How shall I do it? How shall I communicate with my students? Which system shall I use? If my system doesn't work, what will happen? Shall I be able to do it or not? Shall I mean, there were so many questions in my mind, not only in my mind, all my colleagues in my department, but as the time went on, we understood that it could be done as everybody could done. And we had, as I said, so many problems. We tried to solve it as much as we could.
Definitely, of course, it wasn't easy for all of us, and what, like you said, the most important aspect of it is that it was the best alternative that we could opt for, and at the end we all succeeded in adapting to this, whether it's the international office or the classes or the faculties, the lecturers, as well as the students too, who also had to adapt to this because it was new for them as well. So at the end of the day, we have succeeded, and like I always say, I have mentioned before, the only way to move is forward.
In parentheses, during the coronavirus pandemic process, I would like to thank very, very much to the International Student Office that they helped us and to our students more than we expected. I mean, it was very, very successful, I can say, in this process, that every time when they mailed to this international students, they got the answer. There were so many things that we didn't also know how to solve it. We also mailed them. They also directed us. So in this program, I would like also thank so much for the International Student Office for their helpful guiding to us in this process.
On behalf of my colleagues at the International Office, dear Professor, I would like to tell you that you're very much welcome, and we are always available to assist our professors, our lecturers, as well as our students. So once again, you're very welcome. So I'm just going to move to the next question now, which is regarding the postgraduate studies. You did mention before, you did mention about the master's program and the PhD program, but what about those students? Have you noticed if the students, when they graduate from the bachelor's program, do they opt to continue in Near East University? And in your opinion, what are the advantages actually of continuing with their master's? Because as we know, some students, they just do their bachelor's degree, they graduate, and then they jump into the working sector. But in your opinion, what are the advantages of moving towards the master's program and the PhD program?
Of course, this is exactly, again, depending on the students' preferences. But if they ask me, in other words, do they have to do master, then I can say yes. Why? Because the world is getting more competitive day by day. Why is getting more competitive? Because the world is not enlarging, but the population is enlarging. Our world is becoming more crowded day by day. So the job opportunities for the people is getting less, and at the same time, the competition in the working area is getting tough, more tough. So in this case, if you do your master, that will give a chance for you to eliminate all your rivals who have not done their masters. Because master, a person having a master degree is much better than those people in working place who do not have that degree. So I advise them to do their master after they graduate. And we have about 30-40% students that they continue to master program in our university. The other case, of course, for those who really want to do an academic career, they have to do their PhD. And I'm very happy, I'm really very happy that to see most of my students who have graduated from my PhD program, now they are working as lecturers in universities in Cyprus or in Africa or in Turkey. I'm really proud of that what they learn from us is still they keep on, continuing that. And it's still, I can say you that some of my students, they graduated from our department, they became a lecturer in some of the Nigerian universities, and they still offer us to work together, to write papers together, because they said what we learned from you caused us to be here. So we want to go higher, so that's why we still need you. That's very good something. As I say at the beginning, if you see your students as someone from you, as your friend, believe me that they will go with you forever. They will always be your students until even they become professors, even they become much more famous professor than you are, still they will see you as their lecturer. That's why it's very important. Why? Because you believe them, because you saw them as someone, as a scientist. Why? Because you saw them as somebody from your family. That's why they will never forget you. If you do that, they will never forget you. That's my aim. When they leave, to still see us as somebody from their family, as a father, brother, sister, or very close friend, whatever they like. So
Thank you.
definitely not wise for the students to do their master after they graduate, because as I said, the world is becoming more and more competitive place. So if you do your master and somebody and 100 people applies for a job, believe me that if only 20% is having a master level, then that means you eliminated already 80%.
Thank you so much once more. So, dear viewers, as you have heard, our dear professor has just told us that he does advise those who have finished their undergraduate program in economics to go for the master's as well as PhD, if it's possible for you. So I'm addressing myself to all of our viewers right now. If you do want to apply at nearest university, tune in at the very end of this program, because I'm going to brush onto the postgraduate scholarships opportunities that you can apply for, and I'm going to give you all the details at the end of this show. So stay tuned. Moving on to the next question now. We have talked about undergraduate students, postgraduate students, but now let's talk about those who are at the verge of graduation, or those who have already graduated and they are right at the moment where they need to choose a job. They have to enter the working sector. What can you tell us when it comes to the job opportunities that branch from the Department of Economics, or one student that has graduated from the economic departments?
Well, I would like to tell to my students who are at the point of graduating or who have just graduated and are at the 2-3 steps away from the working life. I will say again, if you even go to a job, if you want to be a permanent worker there, then still you have to search and learn and study. It doesn't mean that you only have to study in a work in a university. When you go to a work, try to be better than the others. Try to learn something that the others don't know in the working place. That will carry you to the top. I want to give you an example from myself that made me really surprised in my life. When I first time went to America in 2002, in my idea, when we say America, it means they produce everything, from cars to laptops to the washing machine and everything, because they're superpower and they don't buy anything from others. They only produce and use and sell to the world. That's what I was expected to see. But when I went to America, I was very surprised that I have seen most of the products are coming from Japan or China or Europe. Then I was very surprised, even the cars and everything from Japan. Then I start to ask a question myself. So this is not the America that I was guessing. But what I learned there is they don't produce this type of simple things, they told me. We let this type of simple things to be produced by the developing countries or less developed countries. Then what you're producing, we are producing technology, space technology, that no one is able to produce now. So any country wants something from the space technology, they have to come to America, knock the American door, and get this technology. But we then, if we produce for $1, we sell it for $1,000. That's how we gain money. That's what makes us superpower. It's the same thing. So America search something, learn something, then some kind of products that they produce, no one else can produce except America. Then they become monopoly, of course, in that production, and they sell that product as with 100 times higher than what costed them to produce. So that's how people should be also in the working place. If you go into a working place, you will not say, I graduated, I got my diploma, finished, I am the perfect. No. Your rivals will always follow your steps. So if you want to put your distance as far as possible from your rivals in a working place, then you have to learn the things that they don't know. You have to make them, you have to make yourself better than your rivals in a working place, so you will move to further compared to them. That's what is my advice for them. If the same thing, if they go through the master and if they go through the PhD and they become a lecturer afterwards, that's what I also advise them. Always study harder than the others. Always try to learn something that your colleagues do not know. That's the way how you can make yourself better. So that's what I'm saying. If you educated yourself in a way of based on discussion, then you will also be able to educate yourself until you come to the end of your working life. That's why it's important. That's why my advice is that do not think that after you get diploma, everything finished. No, getting diploma is the starting point of the real life. Because after you get your diploma, you're going into a wild forest. In this wild forest, in this wild jungle, there will be a lot of rivals. So if you want to be strong in that jungle, in that wild jungle, against your rivals, your most efficient weapon is being better, studying more, and learn much more than the others.
Thank you so much, dear Professor, for yet answer. And like I said before, I hope that our viewers are seeing with a notepad, because we have had a lot of wonderful pieces of advice from our dear guests today. So moving forward to the next question, dear Professor, as you have mentioned before, and I'm going to reinstate this, we have a huge percentage of international students who prefer our university, and they come over to Northern Cyprus to study. For those students, there is a very important question of when it comes to the accreditation of our diploma as well as our programs. So can you shed some light on the accreditation of this particular department that you are representing today, and what can you tell them about what details can you tell them about the accreditation?
Okay, I can tell them that our program in economics has recognition, accreditation from YODAC in Northern Cyprus, and also accreditation from YÖK, and also we have accreditation received from FIBA, one of the important educational institutions in Germany. So our master and PhD programs has the accreditation from YODAC and also from the YÖK, which means their diplomas have international acceptance in all over the world. That's very important for them. Especially, I would like to tell them that FIBA is very, very famous educational institutions to have accreditation from that unit. Is meaning that you have a diploma recognized by all over the world from A to Z. So I really proud of being able to say that the FIBA has accredited our department based on the quality of our education, and I was very, very happy in that, really, because we work very hard to get that accreditation, and we're still working very hard not to lose that accreditation. I can give the guarantee for the students for that.
Thank you so much, dear Professor. So I hope the accreditation details have been cleared out for our international students, viewers, actually, whether you are a prospective student or whether you are a student who is still studying with us. And if you need any other information about the accreditation details, you can go to our university official webpage. We have a whole website whereby you can access all the accreditation details for all of our departments and programs. So unfortunately, we have reached towards the end of this session today. We would have liked to have you for a longer session, or maybe we can have you for another session in the near future, dear Professor. But before I ask you to
it's my pleasure to join you and to express ourselves to students on the globalized meaning, because it's not easy. They are coming from very far away countries, and I would like them to feel the warmness of ours that we have against them. And I want them to know that they are not leaving their families, but they are coming to their new family members here.
Definitely, dear Professor. Actually, before you leave the floor, I would like to ask you to give our viewers, especially our prospective students who are leaning towards the Department of Economics, or maybe they think that they are attracted towards economics. What advice can you give them, or anything in general that you would like to add before leaving the floor?
Well, I would like to say, of course, I love my departments, the economics departments, and I can say that economics is huge. I mean, when you study economy, it's going to help you to understand the world and the politics as well, not only economics, also the politics in international world. Because when you study economics, you will find out that how the superpowers are superpower, or why the superpowers are superpower, and you can understand better what rules the world. And the other thing, when I say, okay, when you decide to become an economist, you must study very hard. You know why? Because if a doctor makes a mistake, only one person dies. But if economists make mistake, then the whole society die. So that's what I'm saying. The economists do not have any luxury to do any mistakes. So to prevent that, they have to study very hard. And as I said, to make them better, please study international economics quite well. Please learn what globalized world means. Please learn what the globalization process is. Because when they will study all these topics, they will find that there are lots of secrets under these headlines, not only in economics, but as politics as well. Because we must not forget, what rules the world is economical conditions. So what rules the international relations is economics. Who has the power has the right. I would like to give an example that America said, I can bomb Iraq without any decision of the Security Council of the United Nations. In international relations, this is 100% out of the possibility. But what makes America to be able to say this? The money. Why? Because approximately 24% of the expenses of the United Nations are realized by America. That means even the general secretary wage is being paid by America. So if America cuts its aid to United Nations, many people there will be without wage. So who will they support? Me or Americans? That's why I'm saying when they will study international economics, they will learn many things that also they will learn that what they learned up to now is not something true. That's why I advise them.
Thank you so much, dear Professor. Like I mentioned, we have reached the very end of this session with our honorable guests. So until next time, dear Professor, I'm going to ask you to take care of yourself and good luck with everything that you have on your agenda.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk to my students.
Definitely, dear Professor. The pleasure was shared actually with me. So until next time, take care of yourself. See you soon.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So this was our honorable guest for today, and I believe that we had a very, very fruitful session, and he has given a very great advocacy of the Department of Economics, and I hope that all of our students, all of our viewers who have been leaning towards the Department of Economics, or you are on the verge of graduating, please take note of his wonderful pieces of advice. And before I leave you, I'm just going to brush onto the application procedures. We have talked about everything, but how do we apply to Near East University? So to apply to Near East University, it's not very difficult. You're just going to send an email. It can only be a query. You can just send an email or your question to the email address that is appearing right now on the screen. info@neu.edu.tr, info@neu.edu.tr, and the related officer is going to assist you accordingly. And we also have a postgraduate scholarship application period, which is currently open. So even to apply for the scholarships, you can just send an email to the same email address, info@neu.edu.tr, and try your luck, because we have scholarship points ranging as from 25% up to 100%. So just send your documents and try your luck when it comes to the opportunity of being granted a scholarship from Near East University. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. We have a session tomorrow, same time. So I'll give you a rendezvous for tomorrow, so same time. And don't forget to check our social media, Instagram page and Facebook page as usual, because we have weekly programs. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See you soon, and let's be connected.